Hey, it's Free Talk Live. It's the live Sunday edition of the program. Of course, you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We also have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. I promise we're not going to spend an entire show talking about the New Zealand shooting. We definitely, spent two shows Friday and Saturday nights discussing that, but there was one piece of data that I thought was useful to share because we were discussing this story that I had just heard about, that there was somebody who was, a licensed gun carrier who scared away the shooter from one of the mosques. And there's actually an interview that I think somebody posted on our Discord over at discord.lrn.fm. It's about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. I'm not going to play it, but I will make sure I link to it on our social media, so twitter.freetalklive.com and so on. I'll link it over there so you can see it for yourself. But it's one of the survivors from the massacre down there in New Zealand who explains exactly how he scared away. So it's the guy who scared away the shooter from one of the mosques. And basically what he says he did was he picked up the shotgun that the shooter had discarded. So he had come into the place where he had been doing shooting already, I guess, picked up the discarded shotgun, and then basically menaced him later on with his own shotgun.
It was empty.
That was empty at the time, but do you really know, right? If somebody walks up to you with the shotgun,
not a good game to play.
Yeah.
So, is the shotgun loaded? Is a terrible, terrible game to guess wrong in.
You may be able to ID it as your shotgun because he had painted the guns. There was words that he'd written on his gun, so he might have been able to, at a glance, maybe seen that it was his. But even still, he still wouldn't know 100% for sure if that person didn't have some ammo that they'd pumped into it, or if he
found a shell that he dropped,
or whatever. Right? So who knows? Or if then that presumes he was even able to identify it as his own shotgun. There's a man with a gun, leveling it at you. You're probably not going to be looking too long.
I will say this: if you are dealing with a mass shooter who's clearly a mass shooter, and you have a loaded shotgun, shoot them. No, don't menace them. That would be my
well, right, but it wasn't. Yes. It wasn't loaded.
No, it wasn't. But, from the other side of it, if you happen to have a loaded shotgun, which clearly he did not.
Right. So his goal was to attract the shooter's attention, and at one point he apparently got it. The shooter dropped his own gun and ran at that point and got into his car. He then gave chase after the shooter and chucked the shotgun at the car, apparently, and busted out one of his windshields or windows.
The side windows were blown out, remember?
Yeah, he blew out his own front and at least one of his, if not both of his side windows. So it might have been that he busted out the back window, and he said he thought maybe the guy thought that he was shooting at him because the window busted out, and he just hightailed it out of there. The shooter hightailed it out of there as quickly as possible. So that was an interesting story, and it did verify the claim that we'd initially heard was that there was a licensed gun owner in the vicinity. That wasn't the truth, but it was that somebody did have a gun, and it was one of the shooter's guns that he had discarded that he was then subsequently scared off with. So kudos to that guy for making that happen when police were nowhere to be found. Until later.
It's lucky that New Zealand has such strong gun laws so that this didn't happen.
But it totally did happen.
Oh, it did happen. Yeah. So their laws didn't work?
Right, 50 dead.
Wow.
50 innocent, peaceful people are now dead
in a gun-free zone?
Yeah, unfortunately, New Zealand is mostly gun-free. Did they have
signs up saying it was illegal to bring guns into the mosque?
You can technically own guns in New Zealand, but it's,
Well, you can own a long gun, a semi-automatic long gun, meaning a rifle, in New Zealand, but owning a handgun gets much more difficult. Now, this guy enjoyed these this crazed killer enjoyed these difficult laws to navigate because these laws are kind of set up for a crazed killer. If you're going to go on a shooting spree, don't use handguns. If you're going to do that, you would want to use an automatic rifle. If you're going to want to protect yourself from a shooting spree, on the other hand, you need to pack a handgun every single day. And there are lots of people who are willing to do this. And here in the United States, these concealed carry permit holders, as we call them, are some of the least dangerous people, criminally speaking. They're a tenth as dangerous as cops, meaning that they commit crimes a tenth as often as police officers do.
Mm-hmm.
So, things are working out
pretty well.
You mean as
police officers get caught for doing?
Right, correct. And police officers, their numbers are like 100th of the average citizen. So I'm not talking about police officers being highly dangerous or anything like that.
Gene, the Christian anarchist, says you can have a handgun in New Zealand.
You can.
Posted the laws in the chat yesterday. Sorry, Gene, I didn't see you post them, and I haven't had a chance to look at them.
According to the news that I read, is that having a handgun is significantly more difficult than having a long gun. And this makes sense. And New Zealand is a pretty rustic place. In rustic places, people go and they kill animals in the woods. If you go and kill animals in the woods, you're going to want a rifle. If you want a rifle, it's nice not to have to do the bolt action thing every time, and there's a variety of reasons that a semi-automatic rifle is just convenient to have. It's a small magazine situation, but you can print large magazines on 3D printers, so, that's not that big of a problem. I don't know what the magazines were that this guy had. I don't know where he got them. I don't know any of that stuff, but he probably could have had them delivered in Australia or someplace and then flown them in. I don't know.
So if you want to join us here, you can. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. I just wanted to give you that update. And also on the freedom of speech aspect of this, because we were discussing the whether or not people should be able to see these videos if they want to, and I was saying, yeah, they should. I don't recommend that you see it. I don't think it's a good thing necessarily to look at the video because it's pretty sick stuff, but I think you should be able to access that kind of content online. And there's another headline here saying that Facebook has removed 1.5 million videos. This video, the shooting video, the one that we talked about over the past couple of nights, Facebook has removed it 1.5 million times since it was originally
Sounds like
streamed.
They're pretty good at getting it down.
Well, they have algorithms. They can match, basically essentially they can take one frame or whatever the video and they can match it up against something and say, this,
that's it.
You can't have this here. So they're, according to the story, in the first 24 hours, they removed 1.5 million of these videos, at which 1.2 million of those 1.5 were blocked at the time of upload. So somebody uploaded it and they stopped it from even going out. Others might have tried to maybe change the video slightly, maybe crop it in, maybe reverse it or something to where it didn't, it wouldn't then match whatever their detecting system was looking to detect for. So just thought that was interesting. Facebook is one of these companies that does not believe in freedom of speech. It's a private platform and they can set whatever rules they want.
Facebook, people want to use Facebook for something that Facebook isn't for. And I think that's the biggest problem.
You mean sharing videos? They certainly want you to think that it's for sharing videos.
Facebook isn't for you to disseminate news, not news in the sense of hard news, right? Soft news. We went to the beach today. Here's some pictures of my kids.
Right.
Here's my dog eating a sugar snap or whatever it is that you're talking about. Facebook
give sugar snacks to your dog?
I don't know. It sounds like a bad idea. Basically, it's just a medium for communicating with family. It's a medium for inspirational sunrise memes. Perhaps the workout videos, some recipes. Really just sort of average, mundane, everyday stuff. If you want to use this thing as activism, you're using it for the wrong thing, and, oh, by the way, everybody hates you. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, is Facebook is a poor activism tool.
It's awful. They've crippled it. At one time, it was useful to create, events and invite people to those events, but they made it harder and harder to do those things, and basically now you basically have to pay Facebook anytime you want to actually reach people. It's essentially what they've done. And you've now got people, speaking of Facebook, coming up, by the way, there's a story, Mark, that you wanted to share on Medium.com, an opinion piece about why libertarians are turning to fascism. Yes. Which sounds very disturbing, and I suspect those people aren't actually libertarians, but we can get into that.
Well, we've got to get Rich Paul's opinion on it, too.
Yep, absolutely. I'm glad that Rich is here for that discussion. But since we kind of
as the premier voice in the liberty movement, Rich, I think you need to come down on this one way or the other.
Oh, yeah, I'm like libertarianism's Charlie Sheen.
There's more coming up here at toll-free number 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. Does that mean you're getting all the women in the libertarian movement?
Tiger blood, baby.
A gentleman never kisses and tells.
More on the way.
He's
here.
absolutely right, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's true.
And if she's working, he doesn't kiss at all.
It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Dial in, toll free, bring up whatever you want here. It's the live Sunday edition of the show. You dial toll free number 855-450-FREE, and you can get on the air with us. Talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. Coming up in about 3 months, it's ForkFest 2019, June 13th through the 18th. We will look forward to seeing you there because Free Talk Live will be broadcasting live from, we won't be live, but we'll be broadcasting from the event, recorded live.
Live to tape, as they say.
At ForkFest 2019, because it's just easier for us to do the show during the day and record it at our convenience and at the convenience of our guests, and then just upload it all at nighttime. And then we get to hang out at night, which is a cool thing to be able to do at ForkFest. It's happening again, June 13th through the 18th. If you haven't come up to New Hampshire to check out this migration of freedom-loving people, this is a great excuse to do it. It actually is the 5 days before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. So if you want to extend your stay, you can go through PorcFest as well, and then it's like basically 10 or 11 days straight here in the beautiful, or there rather, in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire at Rogers Campground. Now, the difference, the main difference between ForkFest and PorcFest is PorcFest is centrally organized, while ForkFest has no individual organizer. There's no group, no board of directors. There's nobody who's in charge of the event. So you are in charge of yourself. You get to decide what you do. Do you just want to come camp with other libertarians and voluntarists and like-minded, liberty-oriented anarchists? Or do you want to create something for those other campers to do? Do you want to put on a play? Do you want to put on a poker night? Do you want to put on a musical event? It's up to you, but you got to figure it out, because nobody is in charge except for everybody. So
are we going to have a burning Forkufine?
You should do that.
Okay.
ForkFest.
I don't know what a Forkufine looks like, but I want to.
We'll find out.
We're going to have to find out.
Forkfest.party. Again, that's up to you.
Jim Johnson has created in the past sort of wooden sculptures of porcupines that they then set on fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think that's...
Maybe we could make one out of wooden forks.
There you go.
So get started. You can discuss these things with other people who are attending on the ForkFest Telegram chat room and the forum, which you can link to both of those over at forkfest.party. And that's a good way to, like if you post a thread on the forum, you can get people commenting on that thread about it. And, maybe you'll find people to help you with whatever it is you're going to do. So who knows? It's decentralized, so nobody's in charge. Forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 13th through the 18th. Coming up here, Mark, you've got an article we're going to get into in just a bit about libertarians. Are they becoming fascists? At least that's the opinion, apparently, of the person who wrote the story. I haven't read it, so we'll get into it in a moment. But since we talked briefly about Facebook and how they've been taking down videos of the New Zealand shooting, over 1.5 million uploads have been stopped. 1.2 million of them stopped before they even basically uploaded, and then the rest of them they hunted down later on. I'm against these sorts of things. I think that information should be free. I think that information should be allowed to be seen and to be heard.
Yes, but like I said in the last segment, that's not what Facebook's about.
I understand that.
Facebook's about...
I don't use Facebook.
And you shouldn't.
Just saying I don't think that they're doing the right thing here. That's all.
Okay. Well, if Facebook can't be everything to everybody, you're really not their client.
I agree. I'm definitely not their client.
You should.
But I can still have an opinion.
Okay. You can.
And,
I think Facebook is doing the right thing for Facebook.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think that for people who care about freedom of speech, they definitely shouldn't be on Facebook. In fact, the founder of WhatsApp recently agreed.
If people want to freedom of speech, please go to our Discord room at discord.freetalklive.com or participate in our forum chat. Where's that one?
Discord's pretty free, but it's still a centrally organized platform. If they don't want you there, they can still get rid of you.
There's better options.
Can videos be uploaded to Discord?
Yeah.
I think small ones. I'm not sure what the size. I don't know what the size limit is. It's certainly not a video sharing platform. It's a chat room, chat app. You can share.
Well, if anybody's willing to send a copy, I would love to see a copy of this video. I have not yet.
I put it up on. It's been uploaded to DTube. So
okay,
it is
groovy.
On, some
I'll
sort
grab
of
a DTube link then.
Yeah.
DTube can't be censored, right?
If you go to, so I understand it, DTube cannot be censored.
Nice.
And that video is still there. I checked it yesterday. So if you go to the Free Talk Live social media, so if you go to our Mastodon channel over at toot.freetalklive.com or our Telegram at telegram.freetalklive.com or Twitter at twitter.freetalklive.com, you'll find the link there because I did post it there over the last 48 hours. So just scroll back a little bit and you'll find it right there.
Nice.
If you want to watch it, which I don't recommend that you do because it's pretty disturbing footage. I mean, it's basically a GoPro mounted to some dude's helmet as he goes around and slaughters, dozens of innocent people.
Well, basically, I want to look at it because I've seen some stills that are purported to be from that film that show piles of body with no blood on them. And
I'm sure there's blood.
I don't know if that's real.
The resolution is very low.
Or what?
The resolution of the video is low, so you may not be able to see a lot of blood, which is one of the reasons why it's actually possible to watch it. It's not as gory as as it would be if it were in HD, for instance. Right. So there is that. So maybe the stills were taken from this low resolution video, perhaps, and that's why you didn't see it. But there's definitely some some gross scenes where he's blowing away bodies from close range. I mean, relatively close range. At first, he's firing from sort of across a room, and then he approaches the bodies and just starts putting bullets in people's heads and chests and things like that. And it's pretty.
I saw one thing that purported to be the video, but it really looked more like a really good video game animation.
That's what this was sort of intended to look like. I think that's the reason why he did the the helmet cam thing. It looks very much like a video game. And this person would be of the age range to be very much into video games. He was 28 years old, spent a lot of time on places like 4chan and 8chan and places like that. So I mean,
4chan I know about, 8chan I don't.
But then again, 4chan times 2.
I'm 48, so I'm 20 years this guy's senior.
There's a bunch of these Chan things out there, and 4chan
it's just short for channel, right?
Yeah. They're anonymous message boards essentially, where people post whatever they want.
They look. I mean, I've seen clips from them. I've been on 4chan before, but I've seen people. Sometimes, every once in a while, people will post screenshots of this stuff, and like the interface is just so awful.
Oh yes, it's terrible. It's not.
I don't know why people enjoy it at all.
Because of the content, I suspect. There's stuff there that they can't see in other places. Yeah, is the idea. So, I'm not the only person saying get off Facebook. It's also being said by the founder of WhatsApp. Remember that? You remember hearing about WhatsApp? Facebook bought it a while back.
Oh, that's so?
Yeah. You didn't know that? That's what happened in 2014. WhatsApp was purchased by Facebook for £14 billion.
Gosh.
And the founder of WhatsApp is named Brian Acton. He has recently, this week, urged people to delete their Facebook accounts now during an address made to students. Mr. Acton, now the head, this is, by the way, the story from the Daily Mail, the head of a nonprofit WhatsApp rival, Signal. So dude left WhatsApp and moved over to Signal.
Not exactly the slickest bit of encrypted software out there, gotta say, guys.
Signal, you're talking about WhatsApp or Signal?
Signal.
Huh. Based on what? I mean, this is what Edward Snowden recommends to people.
I'm not saying it's not encrypted and secure.
Okay.
I'm saying it's not slick.
Oh.
What would you like to see slicker on it?
I use Telegram on a regular basis and WhatsApp on a regular basis. They integrate with my experience significantly better. Mm-hmm. The Signal desktop app
it's crappy.
It constantly, I mean, every single day wants to sort of update, and then when it updates, it pulls itself off of my pinned bar thing, so I have to go back and hunt for it.
Weird, I don't have that problem.
It never opens, when I open the computer. Everything else opens up when I turn on the computer. Signal, nope, not so much.
Yeah, their desktop app leaves a lot to be desired, but they are still like the go-to encrypted
if you're going to make an encrypted telephone call, boy, oh boy,
it's
Signal's
good for that.
Great.
Yeah. I use the Android version.
More coming up. Free Talk.
Bitcoin.com is delighted to announce their latest partnership with the gift card specialists at eGifter. With many of the world's leading brands on their roster, it is now easier than ever to get the gift cards of your favorite brands with Bitcoin Cash. To get started, just follow these simple steps. Visit giftcards.bitcoin.com, pick the gift card you want, follow the instructions on your screen, and make your payment using your Bitcoin Cash wallet. Sit tight and your gift card will be delivered to you as soon as it's ready. That's giftcards.bitcoin.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can dial on in here. Toll-free number for you is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. The founder of the WhatsApp chat app has come out and said, delete Facebook. And this is after Facebook paid him £14 billion in order to purchase.
There's a crappy business partner.
Wait, which one? Facebook or this dude?
The guy who comes out and says, when he sells his business, then tells people to.
It's 5 years later.
I don't care.
Well, also, if you sell your business and your user base, and then you believe that the buyer of the business became an abuser of that user base,
it's
you might
obligation.
feel some residual obligation to the people who signed up for your service to say, hey, these guys I sold you guys to really aren't doing the job the way I thought they would.
It came as a stunning shock to this guy that Facebook would be interested in the metadata of his users and want to incorporate them into the greater business. No, dude took $14 billion, said, F y'all, and then...
Good for him. Why are you criticizing him for that?
I'm only saying that this is a crappy way to...
he doesn't need to do business with Facebook ever again.
He does not.
As far as I'm concerned, he got a one-up on them. Good for him.
Right. He agrees with you, and you love that. But this is a crappy way to treat somebody that you sold a business to. And a crappy way to treat your customers whom you sold to that business.
If they wanted to silence him, they should have put it in the contract. I don't think that you should have to shut up about your opinions of what somebody who buys your business does. Look at John McAfee, for instance. He says the same thing, and that business still has his name on it.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I've worked on products that became not the product that I wrote. And
That's
if I
disappointing.
endorsed that product to somebody, I would want to withdraw that endorsement.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. If your name's on it, especially in McAfee's case, then it's even more important for you to withdraw anything.
Because if McAfee antivirus does something that McAfee himself doesn't like, then he may well feel the need to say, hey, I'm not cool with their turning the content of your hard drive over to the government. Which
not saying they're doing that, but
no, I'm not saying they're doing that, but there's no reason they couldn't.
So WhatsApp founder Brian Acton said, according to the Daily Mail, that people should delete their Facebook accounts. During an address that he made to students, he is now the head of Signal, which we've lauded here on Free Talk Live.
Great app.
It's what Edward Snowden has recommended to people. Now, just to be clear, there's no true privacy in the world of the cell phone, right? Because the cell phone could be cracked by the NSA, and then before you even hit the enter key on the text that you're sending over Signal, they might have snatched it up. So you never really know. If you need true privacy, whisper in somebody's ear or use PGP on a very, very safe device.
Go for a hike with that person. Use your texting device to set up a hike and then go on a hike.
So, but either way, Signal is sort of renowned as one of the more private options.
And if things don't work out in the conversation, at least you got a hike.
That's true. He has now called for people to reject Facebook by deleting its family of apps from their smartphones and other devices, which is something that I did relatively soon. As soon as Facebook split from one app into two apps and then it went to three apps, I was like, this is crazy. I do not want to have
hated that. I hate that. I don't have Facebook Messenger on my phone, much to the chagrin of many people on Facebook that want to communicate through Messenger. But I will not put it on my phone. I just don't want that thing.
Right. And the Facebook app kept ballooning up in size. It just kept bigger and bigger and bigger. Even while they're splitting off into other apps, the main app kept getting larger. And so years before I quit Facebook, I stopped using their apps.
And Facebook is very, very much like downloading the NSA's tracking devices to your phone and building yourself a profile. You would never do that. But the Facebook app is so much like that. It's one thing to have it on your computer, which tends to stay in a stationary location. It's another thing to, Facebook wants to know your location.
On that point, one of the final straws for me, actually probably the final straw, because last year at the very beginning of 2018, I quit using Facebook, but I still kind of maintained the account in existence, basically, because I had, like a message at the top saying where you could find my posts on Twitter and, Mastodon and other places. So for people finding my profile, trying to send them in a different direction, that was one reason. And secondly, because we have this Free Talk Live page, which it had been built to 90,000 likes over time, and just in case somebody needed to do something of an admin, administrative level, I could do that. If it was necessary, I could do that. So then what happened was they sent a notice out saying that in order to continue administering your page, we're going to need to verify your location. And in order to verify my location, they wanted me to install their app, which I hadn't had on my phone for years. And so at that point, I was like,
nobody got time for that.
I was like, this is ridiculous. But I went ahead and, because at that time I was still thinking, well, it's still important for me to be an admin of this page, maybe. So I'll jump through the hoop and see if I can uninstall the app after I go ahead and validate the location. Maybe they'll be okay with me at that point. No. Once I validated the location and uninstalled the app, within a couple days, they bugged me again about it and said I had to revalidate. So basically, if you want to administer a page, or maybe it's more popular pages, on Facebook, you have to have the app now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's it. Delete the account, or deactivate it, as they call it, because they won't even let you delete it until you die.
Right. I imagine that in demanding that people, activate it, that they probably lose less than 1% of people they send that that spammy little message to.
So Mr. Acton said here he's rejecting Facebook and saying to people delete their apps. It comes after the world's largest social network has been set by a string of privacy scandals. Mr. Acton has been openly critical of Silicon Valley firms like Facebook and Google in the past for their seemingly profit-driven approach at the expense of people's data. It is the second time that Mr. Acton has made the comment publicly. Last year he posted on Twitter, quote, "It's time, #delete Facebook," following Facebook's failings involving a political consultancy firm. This week, of course, they went offline for, most of a day or something like that, or at least a portion of a day. The data of 87 million users was improperly accessed by Cambridge Analytica, linked to the Trump presidential campaign at the time.
My problem with Facebook has nothing to do with their focusing on profit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a red herring. What bothers me about Facebook is they don't treat my data the way I want them treated. That's
well,
all.
they basically own your data, right? Like you sign up and you say, here you go.
Yeah, they treat it that way.
If they want to take a picture that you upload and turn it into a marketing campaign, they can, and they don't have to pay you for it.
But what's the difference between Facebook and Google in this way? I mean, you have a Google Android phone, don't you, Ian?
I do, yeah.
With Google Fi.
I have Google providing my phone service.
You have, right, and Google has the number. They actually own the number for the phone. And
the difference is Google's useful and Facebook is purposely broken.
Purposely broken.
Google isn't a social network. Google is, their social network failed.
Google doesn't claim the copyright on your content. Even Google Plus didn't claim the copyright on your content. Certainly your phone isn't claiming the copyright of pictures you take with your phone.
No, that's probably true.
I mean, I don't know that Facebook has...
You're comparing apples and oranges here, so it's not even a comparison.
Well,
if you're talking about privacy, you don't have much privacy with Google, but that's not my concern with Facebook. My concern with Facebook is it's a broken platform that is not useful and not helpful.
Well, let's just focus.
Drives people
apples
into
and oranges
arguments.
Are both sweet and sour. Apples tend to be more of a reddish color, and oranges tend to be a more orangish color.
True, yeah.
Although there are differences. There are also
green
yellow
apples and green apples.
You can compare apples and oranges completely reasonably.
You can.
You just can't.
You just did it. There was just a comparison right there.
It's the first time for everything. So I don't think it's a fair, thing to even say.
Well, I'm just saying that, look, apparently you are willing to give up your location and your privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. To Google, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, and
I do.
Well, I got news for you. If you have a cell phone, you're giving up your location, whether it's Google or not.
I would say that's
just
probably true.
Yeah.
I think you could get a burner phone and operate that way.
Burner phones don't really operate that way. The phone companies now go to great lengths to get your phone number, to find out who you really are, to get a credit card number, to make you activate your phone from another phone so they can at least track that. I don't trust throwdown phones anymore.
There's one on the way here. You can share your thoughts with us. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Yeah, if you want privacy, you probably shouldn't have a phone at all. Just move out into the middle of nowhere.
I got a project going.
It is Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free to join us here on the radio. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm, so hop into one of those if you want to get on the air with us and talk about whatever is on your mind.
All hail Discordia.
Indeed. So Ian, Rich, and Mark in the studio here with you tonight. And by the way, Bitcoin.com, your premier source for everything Bitcoin related. Whether you want to learn the basics about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, they've got that. They've also got a Bitcoin forum where you can engage with the Bitcoin community and read the latest news on their news site at news.bitcoin.com. It's loaded up with information on how to choose your Bitcoin wallet, buy Bitcoin, and they'll even show you where you can spend your Bitcoin. Go to bitcoin.com to get started there. As we continue here, the founder of WhatsApp speaking out 5 years after selling his app to Facebook, saying on his Twitter, it is time to delete Facebook. And it's not the first time he said it, but it's relevant this week because a bunch of people were frustrated. There was apparently a Facebook outage earlier this week, and that left a lot of people wondering if they want to stick around Facebook. In fact, there's another headline that says Telegram got 3 million installs on the day. At that same time frame, basically, that Facebook was down, a bunch of people went and installed the competitor, Telegram. Now, Telegram's not a social network, but it is a chat app.
It kind of is, in that they have these rooms that can be very, very large, where everybody can post whatever they want. And
it's a chat room. I mean, it's not the same thing as a social network, but it is still a very, very useful app for chatting purposes and groups and all that. But Acton defended his decision to saying that he wanted his employees and investors to profit, and he didn't have the power or clout to say no. This, I guess, was his decision to sell for $19 billion.
Well, selling a company isn't a one-man decision, yet the shareholders have to vote.
Yeah.
So he probably couldn't have stopped that if he wanted to, unless he was a 51% shareholder, which I doubt. It's hard to stay a 51% shareholder because
he was
use
one
your
of the
stock
founders
to pay for things when you're starting up.
He wasn't the only founder. He's one of at least a couple founders.
Yeah.
So he was probably never 51%.
Yeah. Acton said he defended his decision, saying he wanted his employees to profit and investors to profit. Didn't have the clout to say no. Speaking at Stanford University in California, he said, quote, I had 50 employees. I had to think about them and the money they would make from the sale. I also had to think about our investors, and I had to think about my minority stake. So there you go. I didn't have the full clout to say no if I wanted to. The former CEO said he didn't agree with Facebook's monetizing strategy on WhatsApp. Jan Koum, who's the co-founder of WhatsApp, also left Facebook a year later in 2018. So this guy left in 2017. So he sold out to Facebook in 2014 and then left Facebook from creative differences or whatever in 2017. His co-founder left a year later because he reportedly also didn't agree with their approach to user data and privacy. Both Mr. Acton and Mr. Koum had tried to find a way to monetize WhatsApp without bombarding users with advertisements. He said he pushed for a business model that would charge WhatsApp users $1 a year to use the app, as the company once did in its early days. The pair hoped a service model could align their interests with the user's need for privacy and security to counter Facebook's data harvesting to help advertisers target users. Quote, it was not extraordinarily money-making, and if you have 1 billion users, you're going to have $1 billion in revenue per year, he said, if you did $1 per year. That's not what Facebook and Google want. They want multi-billions of dollars. And in an interview with Forbes, he described how Facebook had set goals for WhatsApp to hit a revenue run rate of $10 billion within 5 years by pushing advertisements. So anyway, he's saying get out of there. The toll-free number here, if you want to join us, is 855-450-FREE. Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, sent a message saying, quote, I've seen 3 million new users signed up for Telegram within the last 24 hours. This was
it's the Russians.
On Wednesday. That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just tried to take the Facebook app off my phone.
Really?
And I was able to uninstall Facebook Messenger, but Facebook itself can't be uninstalled from my phone. All you can do is disable it.
So it shipped with Facebook.
With it. Now, this is a straight talk phone that I've got. So I'm curious from listeners, does your phone force you to keep Facebook on there? Why don't you uninstall it and see what happens?
I think mine has... Facebook. That Facebook. I installed Facebook.
You uninstalled.
I know. I installed it. Yeah.
But then uninstalled.
No, I have it on my phone.
You still have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and the thing is, if that code is there, then all you have to do is add hooks to it from another app, which I think is possible, and you may be able to call into that pile of Facebook code.
Even if you disable it, you think?
Even if you disable it, if they added, say, another app that was a Trojan horse. It was there to do whatever it does. Plus, call into the Facebook thing. This is the sort of thing that you would do if, for example, part of what's in the Facebook app is CIA monitoring software which takes screenshots. And that's how you get around secure apps, is it doesn't matter how secure your Signal app is. If there's something on your phone that will send screenshots to the FBI or the CIA.
Or key logs or something like that.
Yeah, and even if they're not doing that for everybody, I have no doubt at all that they have ways to do that to people they've told Google are terrorists. And I don't see any reason that they wouldn't tell Google that I'm a terrorist. So, it's the way to do this is to not use commercial phones.
Well, you can also root your phone probably and install like a fresh operating system on there, and then it won't come with any of the crapware.
That's true, but we don't know. The other thing that can be done is putting things into the hardware, into the firmware, into other parts of the phone. When electronic components become sufficiently complex, you can't know what they do.
And that's one of the things that Chris Wade, who is our privacy nut here on Free Talk Live on Friday nights, he is the founder of Think Penguin, which sells hardware that is as privacy-centric as you can get. He's definitely somebody who's very concerned with the lack of privacy on phones. Is that something that your project is working on? You mentioned you have a project.
Yeah, well, I do have a project that I'm working on, and basically what it would be is your phone would be either a server that you were operating on the internet. If you were really concerned about privacy, you could set up your own Linux box to be your phone server, or you could get a phone server, just like you can install your own WordPress, or you can just create an account at WordPress.com. It would be that kind of thing, except there could be many WordPress.com.
So it'd be a Wi-Fi phone, basically?
It would be a Wi-Fi phone where, obviously anything that goes through the plain old telephone service can be tracked. But if they tracked you, they would track you to a machine out on the internet, either yours or somebody else's, and then you would have a handheld unit that attached to that server so that you could get data from it.
I see what you're saying.
But the handheld unit would be set up so that you can hit a big red button on it if you're getting arrested and sever its link to the server.
It's pretty handy.
Yeah, there's and there are things that you can do, like putting the server behind a VPN that will make it very hard for them to know where the server is operating physically.
So, pardon me if I don't know exactly how this would all work. I'm the Luddite in the crowd here. Wouldn't you want the phone to have some information? So you push this big red button, and it severs the link to the server, and then the phone's just this dead piece of software.
Yes, it bricks the thing. That's its job.
But
it can be then used to log into a different account on a server or whatever. You just have to log in again, basically, because the phone is what we used to call a dumb terminal. It doesn't have any intelligence on it. It's just a keyboard and a screen, and in this case, a microphone and a camera.
Doesn't that make it like really slow in the sense that
it would make it slower?
It has nothing on the phone itself.
Yes, it would make it much slower. And sometimes, and the other thing is, in order to use this thing and in order to be truly secure with it, you'd have to exercise a certain level of tradecraft. You would have to order your affairs in such a way that you weren't exposing this thing. So it's not
it's for privacy.
It's not necessarily
it's not
for everybody.
Yeah.
It's for people that the government are really looking at. It's for revolutionaries. It's for criminals. It's for people who actually have something to hide.
I want to go to
people
speaking
who want
of
to
phones.
help them.
I want to go to Joe. He's waiting patiently here in Michigan. Go ahead, Joe. You're on Free Talk Live, listening to WTKG in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I believe his name is Jaron Lanier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but he's one of the forefathers of AI. He's got a bunch of videos on YouTube about this, getting rid of your social media accounts and how it's bad for you and everything. And
stand by, Joe. I don't know if you're driving at something here, but hang on. We're going to bring you back if you can right in moments. We got the news and your calls and thoughts. Welcome on the way at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. More with Joe if he sticks with us and Ian, Rich, and Mark here in the studio. Coming up, are libertarians going fascist? We'll get into it on Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You dial in, toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, somebody on the internet is saying that libertarians are becoming fascists.
Somebody on the internet says.
I can't come to bed. Somebody on the internet is wrong.
So we're going to get into that. Mark, you have the story that's on the way. With you tonight, by the way, it's Ian,
Rich, Paul,
and Mark.
We're going back to your phone calls first, though. Joe called in at the very end of the last hour. I wanted to make sure you had a chance to get your thoughts out, Joe, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just think, I've been on Facebook for like a year and a half, probably 2 years now.
Off? You said you've been off Facebook or on Facebook? I'm sorry.
Off. No.
Off. Okay.
No, I don't do it anymore.
Gotcha.
But, and I'm getting ready to get off Twitter because that's just as bad as Facebook. But it's behavior modification, man. I mean, I know they're voluntary. You don't have to use their sites. They're private companies. They have their own rules. But it's like training a dog. The dog does something you want or does what you want, you give it a treat. If it doesn't, you scold it. And it can't be good. It just can't be good for our brains to have that dopamine hit, all these retweets and likes and all this stuff. And, and then, they'll threaten if you say the wrong thing, you cross this little line here, you get politically incorrect or whatever.
You're done.
They'll suspend you or ban you or whatever. So people don't really say what they think. It's not really a free speech platform. And you got adults, who are scared to speak their minds. And, I know, like I said before, it's a private company. They have their own rules. But I just think if there's a platform similar to these platforms, which was a little more forgiving. I'm not talking about calling for people's deaths, that kind of crazy stuff. But,
right.
Just stuff that arguing with people about politics or whatever.
There are some alternatives.
Some of the problems with Facebook, though, are endemic to and inseparable from the type of media that it is. For example, anything that shows you other people's news feeds, unless they allow you to substitute your algorithm for their algorithm, is choosing what to put in front of you. And by doing that, they can alter their mood. They can irritate you by showing you the kinds of stories that they have found irritate
Hasn't
you.
Facebook done experiments just like that?
Facebook has done experiments like that, and they work just fine, and logic shows no reason they should not. If you see a bunch of nasty news stories on Facebook all in a row, it's going to change the way you feel. And the only solution to that is to have you in control of the algorithm that controls what you see. They can give you a default algorithm, but you would have to be able to alter it, and it would have to be under your control.
Couldn't the algorithm
take away that power from them?
Just be chronological?
It's rage bait.
Yes. Yes, it could.
It's rage bait. That's all it is.
It could. The thing is, you would never know if it was really following the algorithm.
Because you can't read the code.
Yeah, can't read the code unless that code is running on your computer.
Right. If they shadow ban somebody, then you would have no idea, right?
So the way it would work under a system that I would design would be they would send you the whole set of messages, and you would then send back the list of messages that you wanted to see. And then you would control how they were sorted.
So the if you're looking for chronological, Mastodon does that. That's the alternative, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. And Twitter purportedly does it, but again, you don't really know because they're closed source. Mastodon is open source, and so you can know in that particular
about the
case.
dopamine hit that the caller called in. What's it?
This is Joe.
Joe, thank you, Joe. Sorry about that. I don't have the computer in front of me. Ian does. My son, watches YouTube and that sort of thing. And he has internalized in some way, like a priority or he cares about likes, right? Because he watches YouTube videos, now he cares about likes. Well, there couldn't be a worse thing to care about in the world.
I'm glad you finally adopted that viewpoint because you cared a lot about likes about two months ago.
Oh, I care about likes on stuff that has to do with my business.
It's all still irrelevant.
Well, it's not irrelevant.
It is.
Okay, so
it's just somebody with some opinions on the internet.
Things
are
relevant because people say they're relevant. That's what relevancy is.
You can't sit here and tell your son that likes aren't important when you're freaking out about likes on something.
No. Hold on. Let me make that statement.
Or at least your son might not like it.
Let me adjust the statement. I wish my son didn't care about likes.
Maybe you should set a good example for him then.
No, well, look, because I am not a fool.
Do as I say, not as I do, son.
I understand that likes are important when it comes to my business.
They're not. They're really not.
Okay, well,
I'm telling you, they're not.
Okay.
It's not important.
You notice most of
There's 90,000 of them right now on that Facebook page, and it wouldn't matter if we flushed it down the drain tomorrow.
Why not?
It wouldn't matter one iota. You can't even reach those people.
Why not?
If you post, unless you pay Facebook.
You can pay Facebook to reach them.
You can pay Facebook.
Well, you can also use networks to do it. I mean, if you really encourage people over the air to go share that article, then each person who shares it is going to marginally increase the number of people who see the article. So there are things you can do with it.
You're using broadcast to augment it, though, in that case.
Yes, exactly.
But you can do that with anything. You can have somebody share any old post on any kind of system, whether it's Facebook or not, whether it has a bunch of likes.
Well, what you
irrelevant.
can't do with any system that isn't Facebook is reach the people who are on Facebook.
In theory, you can reach them.
The Twitterers
but fewer
on Twitter.
and fewer every day.
That's true, and I would be.
And that's the myth of Facebook is that you can reach those people. That's what they want you to believe, and that's what they've made it harder and harder to do over time.
It's an advertising platform. It's really good for reaching people if you
pay them. Exactly.
And that it
didn't used to be that way.
It breaks his miserly little heart that's what their whole plan was in the first place.
No, really, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. I'm just not going to be there. So it doesn't break my heart. They can do whatever it is they want to do. I have no love lost for Facebook. I was breaking up with Facebook. Took me about 5 years, but I uninstalled their app several years ago, and then I weaned myself off of the dopamine hits that Joe's talking about by stopping myself from using the notifications tab, because I used to go up every time there was one little indicator. As soon as there was one indicator on that notifications tab, I was clicking on it just to see what it was.
I found that Facebook doesn't make me happy generally. And I have a personal feed that I use, and I try to get rid of any political content from there. But it keeps coming back because people have opinions.
Yeah, that's the thing. People have opinions. The thing that you were upset about that was regarding likes was somebody saying something negative, and that negative comment had likes on it, and that was upsetting to you because it had likes on it. And I was trying to tell you it doesn't matter.
Because of the likes, it's getting more views, and it gets more
views. Who cares? Someone with an opinion had somebody like it on the internet. It's irrelevant. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to your son right now.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Joe. Anything else you want to share?
I was just saying that, I've noticed a lot of the big tech gurus out there are coming out and saying they don't let their kids use it.
Really?
Because they know what it does. And, try giving up social media for a week, man. It's like quitting cigarettes or something. I mean, it is. It's that may be a little exaggerated, but
I think it's worth the exaggeration.
Joe, thanks for the call tonight, man. I definitely appreciate hearing from you, and that's one of the things I'd encourage Mark to do when he was freaking out about these likes. I'm like, look, you're on vacation. Take a break from it. Just put it away. Don't log in for a week, is what I said to you. And you kept coming up with excuses as to why you couldn't do it, and it was so important that you were using Facebook.
No,
Yes, that's exactly what happened. You can deny it if you want. But
it's a platform for disseminating information.
That's what they want you to think, but it's not really very effective at it, as we've just covered
very
here.
Effective
if you pay them.
Well, no.
Are you paying them?
If you come from a personal account as opposed to a page, then you have more power.
Really?
Yes. The personal account, you can't boost to post. A page, you can boost to post. So a page has the ability to reach more people at a personal account if they pay.
If you pay.
But in all likelihood, they will get far fewer.
Yeah. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. However, you still aren't going to reach but a fraction of your personal account viewers, because there's, again, no guarantee that they're going to show up.
Reach a lot of them.
There's no guarantee you're going to even show up on their feeds. More coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts with us. 855-450-FREE. It is Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You dial in toll-free, bring up whatever you want. Our number here is 855-450-FREE. Coming up, are libertarians going fascist? That's what one person on Medium has to say. And Mark, you said you wanted to share that tonight, so we're going to get to that. It's Ian, Rich, and Mark in the studio, and our toll-free number for you is 855-450-FREE. And also, want to make sure you know about liberty.menu. If you are a liberty-minded person, if you're an individual who rejects the initiation of force and agrees to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle, then you belong over at liberty.menu. You can put the things that you do there. Maybe you've got a business. Maybe you have more than one business that you do. Maybe you're a digital content creator or perhaps an events coordinator. All of those things have categories over at liberty.menu. It's basically a tool to allow other liberty-minded folks to find what you do and vice versa. So head over to liberty.menu and put your voluntarist ideas into action and find out where other liberty-friendly businesses are. Maybe give them some of your business. Use code FTL when you sign up on your user profile to get a special Free Talk Live listener badge. That's liberty.menu. As we continue here, your calls and thoughts are welcome. Let's talk to Steve. He's in Virginia listening to WNIS. Hello, Steve.
Hello. How you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, my opinion is this, and I've talked to several African Americans, and they've told me the same thing. If the governor of Virginia, who is in a scandal for a yearbook photograph of being either in a Klan uniform or in blackface, had been a Republican, they would never give him a second chance. They would have just wrote him right out of office.
Okay, I remember hearing this news story from a couple weeks ago, right?
And now it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, he came out and apologized or whatever, and you're saying if he were a Republican, it wouldn't have gone the same way. You might be right.
No, and I mean, I've talked to African-American people, and they say the same thing. If he was Republican, they'd have stayed on his hind parts until he was gone.
Yeah, I think that people generally have a double standard when it comes to the political party with whom they disagree the most.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I have my own opinion about that, too.
Okay, well, tell me it.
Okay? As long as you do like Master tells you, you can stay on the plantation. We'll give you free health care, Medicaid, housing, Section 8, food stamps, and clothing, welfare.
But you have to do what? Be poor,
You
right?
have to vote Democrat. You have to vote Democrat.
Well,
the Republicans aren't taking away the welfare.
You could conceivably vote Republican. I mean, it's a blind ballot.
Right, but they don't.
No, that's true.
Oh, sorry, Rich. Try that again.
How do you know?
And that's, well, you can tell by the fact that I listened to a African American the other day on another radio station talking about there aren't any African Americans in the Republican Party.
There aren't many.
And he didn't know why. And
there are definitely
if they
some.
go that way, they're ostracized.
Okay, so
yeah,
are you?
If they say they voted that way, they're ostracized. I imagine that my guess is, this is just a guess, that black males voted more for Trump than they'll say they did.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
And I would say that, I mean, black culture tends to be culturally conservative. And so, there would be, I would imagine, a certain attraction to the policies that Trump talks to with respect to homosexuals and transsexuals, for example. Because they're generally not very popular with the African American community for a variety of historical reasons.
Yeah, I'd say that largely it's one of those situations where most voters vote the way they vote because they think that for whatever reason the other party dislikes them or is against their particular goal in the most important area. So. I think most gay people vote Democrat because they think most Republicans that more Republicans hate them than Democrats hate them.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the Republican Party could get rid of the religious right, if it was somehow
where would it go?
A three-party thing, well, Constitution Party, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be a
one
great
more thing
fit
that I
there.
did find out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I talked to a lot of African American women who did not like Hillary.
Well, I mean, a lot of people didn't like Hillary. She was awful.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but I mean, she was expecting that vote, and I don't think she understood that they did not like her.
Well, I gotta say, it makes me uncomfortable to hear somebody say they didn't do this, they don't like that, because
from a different demographic.
Well, the statement can be made based on statistical analysis, though, and I think the polls are in, and the polls do say that as a group, African American women did not tend to lean toward Hillary Clinton.
You could say a majority
they didn't vote for Trump.
You could say a majority of them did or didn't do something. You could, be more specific. If you say they, then it's sort of unfairly groups people together where they may not necessarily want to be grouped.
Well, if it's based on an actual a reasonably scientifically administered poll, and what you're saying can be extrapolated clearly from that poll, then I don't think it's an unfair grouping. I think that's exactly why they keep demographic information on polls.
Ian doesn't like the English language's use of generalizations. So the way people talk is they'll say,
"Oh, he's an anti-labelist."
He just doesn't like that.
I know a lot of anti-labelists, and if there's one thing you can do to make an anti-labelist head explode, you just call him an anti-labelist. And
I'm definitely not anti-labels. I mean, I like finding terms
They're
that
useful.
are acceptable to me, but I'm only talking about myself in that instance. I get uncomfortable. It's almost sounds like, somebody might be a racist. I'm not saying that about you, Steve, if you make generalized statements about people based on their race. I mean, that's not necessarily...
when you start getting to the negative generalized statements,
then it becomes racist.
I don't know that it becomes racist. It becomes very uncomfortable very quickly.
So I always like to acknowledge the existence of the individual and say that people are different. So if you want to be specific and say 2/3 of black women didn't vote for Hillary, or 1 out of 3 or whatever, then that would be more acceptable, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it is a good idea to, as much as possible, give the real numbers, and not everybody knows the real numbers all the time. I mean, they found that
you could just
93% of statistics used in Facebook debates are just pulled out of somebody's
That's
butt.
what Abraham Lincoln said.
Yeah,
Abraham Lincoln said
I saw
that.
it on the internet. Steve, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Let's go to Charles in Virginia, listening to WNIS. Hello, Charles.
Hey, what's up? So I just wanted to, I've been listening to your program, and then I've been thinking about other things.
Okay,
good. But what I really wanted to say was I listen to your program a lot.
Thanks.
And, Bitcoin, and you talk about gold, and you talk about, different political parties and whatnot. Well, thinking outside of the box, when it comes to food independence, what do you really want to spend your Bitcoin on? What do you really want to spend your gold on? If some grand emergency, end of the world scenario, whatever happens, well, everybody's got about people want to eat. You got to eat, right? So most people probably have access to at least 100 square feet, 10 foot by 10 foot, to garden in. And it's a really revolutionary thing if you think about it. The Victory Gardens in World War II.
No, I had gardens for. We had a garden for years.
You didn't overturn the state?
I raised pigs. There's nothing revolutionary about growing your own food.
Hang on,
but
Charles.
I'm willing to talk to you. about
we can discuss.
I'd love to hear your premise.
Yeah, the toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You didn't undermine the entire banking establishment?
Well, they sent the men in black out to my house, and I think we all got zapped by the guns, and I don't really remember the experience.
All right, more on the way here. 855-450-FREE. We got the live Sunday edition continuing here. It is Free Talk Live.
business owners. You want more customers? Accept cryptocurrencies. There's people all around you just waiting to spend money at your store. If only you would take it. I know, you've been waiting till someone else makes it easy. Well, good news. HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com adds Bitcoin to your point of sale, totally free. Use the same equipment you already have, now with Bitcoin. And unlike credit cards, there's no fees. Let the guys at HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com bring new customers to your store. HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Live Sunday edition. Open phones as always. You can bring up anything that you want. Still to come, are libertarians turning fascist? Mark's got a story about that from Medium.com. It's Ian, Rich, and Mark in the studio tonight. And I do want to make sure that you know about the AMP program. John Rolstead is a Free Talk Live Silver amplifier, and that means that John is supporting the show to the tune of $5 per month. And thank you for doing that. The AMP program stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, and the idea is you can send in that $5 through PayPal, credit card, or Bitcoin BTC. You do one of those, and we will be much appreciative. You'll get some cool bonuses and some perks that you get access to that the normal listener of the show doesn't get. Although normal listeners, you get a whole lot for free, like, archives, webcam, all that stuff is all free. So please go and use those features at freetalklive.com. But if you want to go above and beyond the Call of Duty, you want to help us out and help Free Talk Live get on new radio stations. We've got almost 200. We're at 194 stations right now. And we can get to 200. We can possibly do 300 or more. It takes time, it takes money and effort, and that's what the AMP program helps us do. It's amp.freetalklive.com. So do like John Rolstead and join the AMP program, please. It makes a big difference for us. That's amp.freetalklive.com. As we continue, by the way, the gentleman who was on the line who wanted to talk about victory gardens or whatever, the idea that he said a 10 by 10 plot is revolutionary, having your own garden. And Mark, you wanted to counter that. Unfortunately, he dropped off the line as soon as we went to the break there, but I still wanted you to have a chance to kind of say whatever it was you wanted to say about it.
Well, I would probably take the point of view but I would take a counterpoint to what he said when he called in because he has a point of view, right? Like, I think people should hear both sides.
You're going to overgrow the state.
I really love the passion behind people who want to do gardening as some kind of activism. I just don't think it is.
Yeah, it's not.
As somebody who wants to see...
Unless you're growing marijuana outside of the police station, then it's not activism.
Well, I would disagree with that, because if you're operating as an agorist, then what you're doing is activism. It's just activism by other means. Civil disobedience isn't the only kind of activism, And
are you telling me growing tomatoes in your own garden is activism? Because I'm going to disagree with you.
Am I telling you it's activism? No, but I think growing weed in your basement and doing your best to keep it secret is activism if, as part of your business, you're spreading the word of agorism. Okay? It's always counter-economic activity.
That's a stretch.
If it becomes agorist activity, then it becomes... I mean, you didn't... When I was selling weed, my runners didn't get out of there without hearing something about economics and
that's certainly you.
And how it works. Well, that's agorism because, agorism is defined as counter-economic activity, and counter-economic activity is any black market or gray market activity which is carried out for the political purpose of promoting agorism.
Couldn't you just go around and talk to people about economics? I mean, and do as much good as talking to your marijuana distributors as about economics? I mean,
I would say no, and part of the reason is the fact that I could offer people economic advantage gave them a reason to actually stand there and listen to me instead of just saying piss off and go away.
Sure. I can see that.
Yeah. So let me address
the fact that I was engaged in business with these people allowed me to point out when they said, well, this is what's happening on the market. I was able to say, well, that's how markets work, and this is why that's how markets work, and this is how you deal with it.
But you doing business and spreading whatever ideas you spread, that was the moment of doing the activism, was spreading the ideas. It was irrelevant whether or not you were growing weed or growing tomatoes or whatever it was you were doing.
If I'm growing weed for the purpose of bringing people to my house, for the purpose of engaging in business and but
if they were going to come for the tomatoes, then what it was that you were growing was irrelevant. And so just having a garden is not, by its own nature, having a garden for your own benefit, not activism.
No, it gives you a certain level of security,
self-sustainability, maybe.
If it
gives you tasty tomatoes.
Sure,
that's really worth pointing out. Is that you'll never have a tomato that's so good as the tomato you grew yourself. They're really, really, really good. The ones you get at the store stink.
And then the other question is, are you growing your own food for economic reasons, or are you growing it because as a countermeasure because you think that the food you're getting in grocery stores isn't good for you? And there's a lot of people who believe that, especially people who don't like GMOs. And I don't have the scientific background.
But one thing's for sure, you're not going to overturn the farm-to-table food system by growing your own, crops. You, the one person, isn't going to do that.
No, not just alone. That can be part of your program, but another part of your program would have to be barter or using other currencies, because every time you trade for dollars, every time you hold dollars, you're voting for the Federal Reserve. Mm-hmm. Every time you trade in Bitcoin or in cash or Bitcoin Cash or in gold or in silver, then you're voting for the value of those as
you're outside
as
of the system. You're outside of the old money system.
So yeah, and that's the extent. Certainly, if you're growing your own food or if you're building your own house, you're depriving the state of tax money. You're
hold on,
participating in their dollar economy.
Well, I'm not saying it's a good idea either. When your plan is do X, so trade in Bitcoin Cash. I like that, right? Step 2 is, well, I'm not sure, and step 3 is
profit.
Revolution. Right? There's no. This isn't a plan. This is just talk, and
growing a garden isn't a plan.
Right, I don't believe it is, and
it's a plan
nor do I believe
agorism
is in that sense, or the idea of using an alternative currency. I think that those things are good ideas, but they are unquantifiable in the idea of sort of revolutionary or evolutionary thought. There might be a step in an evolutionary process, but they are not revolutionary. What the political activists here in New Hampshire have shown is that they can do quantifiable stuff that makes people's lives freer. Whereas, the agorist thing, you can make your own life freer because you're less likely to deal with demand or corporate control or things like that. But you can't make the world freer.
But it's not just that, because you're making your customers freer. If I open up a church, in an agorist church that has a place where you can go and you can smoke vaporizers, but maybe not cigarettes, and you can smoke weed, and you can sit around and you can drink beer and talk about ending the state, then yeah, all of my customers are freer for what I've done. If I'm getting customers weed who wouldn't be able to get weed if they didn't know me, then I'm leaving my customers freer. I'm providing them with something they need outside the state. Even if I'm selling them tomatoes that I grew myself, every tax I evade, they're evading as well.
I see that point. However, they're not free in the long run, right?
Well, they're freer in the long run if we gain independence from their economic system. There's a limit to how well we can do that. But to the extent that people abandon the dollar, that's the second way of getting inflation. Is people say, I don't want to hold dollars. I'm pushing dollars away from me, and I'm pulling in gold and silver. Well, that's going to reflect itself in the dollar economy as inflation.
Well, 2/3 of transactions on the planet are untaxed, untracked transactions.
Good.
You've got
And that's just
2/3.
natural. That's without any conscious promotion to speak of.
Sure. Well, the conscious promotion probably isn't going to change anything in that number. It's a big number, and there's lots of transactions.
I think it will, because there's a lot of poor people out there that don't have jobs and don't know how to make money on their own. Well, they can be taught to make money, to operate an agorist.
I don't think it's a bad idea, but I'm saying you've already got 66%, and it's still not working.
Working in to what extent? I would say that the state would be much more powerful if all trade was taking place through regulated businesses.
The state will become much more powerful because it will begin to clamp down over time on these transactions because it exists now. The state is getting technology as other people are getting technology.
All right, there's more coming up here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing outside the system stuff. I think it's great. Keep it up. The more you can do, the better for everybody. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You may dial on in here and take control of the airwaves on this live Sunday edition of the show. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. You may join one of those, and then you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. Just go to discord.lrn.fm to do that. Discord is our chat server, and it is where you can go and interact with other Free Talk Live listeners before, during, and after the show. There's people in there right now. The On Air Now channel tends to be the busiest one, but there's other channels. So we've been talking off and on about cryptocurrency tonight. There's a channel all about that. There's gaming. There's a special channel for amplifiers and Patreons and subscribers on Twitter, people who support the show. So there's all kinds of stuff there. Check it out over at discord.lrn.fm. As we continue here, we'll take your calls and thoughts. Matthew is in Louisiana. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
Hey.
So I thought of what I was missing yesterday when I called in with the Heartland point of view of limiting the franchise. And that was that
what franchise?
Robert Heinlein had this opinion that everybody would be taught the history and moral philosophy class, and that would be one of the things that made the difference. And the other would be that basically, if you take all the potential wolves and turn them into sheepdogs, that would suffice to keep the people free. Again,
you're a big fan, right?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Robert Heinlein fan, but the thing is, those are certainly. I believe I'm recognizing what you're talking about as being basically the philosophy of Starship Troopers.
Yes.
So that was a set of ideas that he expressed. I wouldn't necessarily say that Heinlein believed that was the best way, because he never publicly came out and said in the realm of all of my hypothetical universes, the one that I think would work best is the one from Starship Troopers. And most of the themes from Starship Troopers were not repeated that strongly in the rest of his corpus.
Absolutely.
Starship Troopers was way more militaristic than anything else he wrote.
Yeah, it was. But it's interesting.
That causes so many people to view it as fascistic. But there was actually something else I called for, and this is my humor of the night.
Okay.
Y'all have been seeing all of what's going on in Paris, right? With the Yellow Vest
They're back out. Yeah, the Yellow Vest protesters are back in the streets.
18 weeks they've been out, and they're burning it down.
They burned something down today.
Yeah.
They're certainly giving it the old college try, and I'm trying to figure out what these people want. This is as far as I can figure it out. What do we want? We don't know.
Well, there's a bunch of people.
Now.
Well, what they do know is they want the French president to step down. They want to and it's a mixed bag of things because it's a mixed array of things. They do vehemently oppose the carbon tax, partially because it's a regressive tax. But so they do have some ideas in common. And believe me, if you're going out there and you're getting shot at and you're coming back, you personally have a strong opinion of what you want. Whether or not your movement is communicating that effectively to the people in America watching who don't speak French.
Some of them might just want to burn things down.
I hear them chanting things, but I don't speak French, so I don't know.
I mean, and we don't know. They're all individuals. Some of them might just want to go out there and cause destruction. I mean, so you don't know who you're dealing with.
It is a multi-faction movement is the other thing. I've seen people out there with yellow vests that had hammer and sickle on them. I've seen people out there with yellow vests that had nationalist symbols on them.
Which means that
I've seen Illuminati eyes painted on some of them. A lot of it is an anti-banker movement. They don't like the banking system very much, and they're right not to like the banking system.
This is where libertarians get led astray all the time. They join up with these people in these protests, and then those people get some of the things they wanted, and the libertarians get nothing.
Well, main thing...
Here's what, Mark, here's one of the things I will say about them. They're all sure of what they don't want, and they don't want Macron. They want to dethrone a planet. They want to take down Jupiter.
Yeah. Well,
unfortunately, whoever replaces Macron's going to be a bad guy too.
Yeah, that's what they're going to get.
To me, it's a big difference whether they completely overthrow the government or whether they just shuffle people around like you do after every election.
That'll be the
That's
latter.
a different matter. If you actually take down the government, then there's a chance of reclaiming getting information from that government, publishing what they've been up to, publishing what they know about what the United States has been up to. That's something I would really love to see.
Let's go. Thanks, Matthew, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, yes. I just want to say that, have you noticed that, what I've noticed is that, most of the political movements are actually happened by a couple of people. Like, for example, like our state.
Okay.
It's only like 30, 50 people in our state for our population. That does anything. That puts it, how many...
You're saying there's only a few activists that spark movements. You're saying it only takes a few people to get a fire started.
I'll say hundreds of activists in a given state, usually. And maybe thousands, depending on the state.
We've got about 1,000 Republican and 1,000 Democratic activists in New Hampshire, according to some statistics published by the Free State Project before 2009, because they said we'd basically need 2,000 people to outnumber the activists of left and right with the activists of
Which is why we need to get 20,000 to move here, because only about 2,000 of the 20,000 are going to be your key doers.
Well, and at any given time, I mean, if you're doing, especially if you're doing civil disobedience, the personal cost of doing that is so high that you can only do it for so long.
Yeah. Well, that's never going to be a sustainable thing, but I just mean general activism. You're still only going to, the 80-20 rule is always going to be in effect. So I think, Sarah, is that what you're talking about here? The fact that it's always a small minority of people who spark these movements that end up creating change?
Right, like what you were saying about is right, about your school project. It's like that 20% does all the work,
that's
and
right.
80% just kind of goes
Everybody
along with
knows this. Yep, it happened to everybody.
Well, what I'm saying is the core. I mean, there could be supporters. Like I'm a supporter of gun control. Okay, I talk about it.
Yep, you're a self-proclaimed communist.
Yeah. Now, do you love Trump? Hold on a sec. Do you love Trump?
No, I'm opposed to Trump.
Do you
I'm opposed to petroleum oil.
I mean, do you think he's bad, or do you think he's really bad? I mean, do you think he's dangerous? Like he might, start hurting Muslims or anything? Can you imagine him doing that?
I would have preferred Hillary Clinton. That's my, that I would have preferred her over him. But we're stuck with him, so we have to live with it.
Do you think Trump poses a danger to minorities then, though? Do you think he's actually going to act against them?
Look, I was talking about, like, the activists, the core activists.
She's terrible about answering questions, so... Yeah. You can try again and see if you can get an answer.
The reason I'm asking this is if you think that Trump is dangerous to people, then why would you want to disarm his potential victims so they couldn't fight back? There were 12 million people killed in the Holocaust. Well, guess what the size of the German army was at the outset of World War II? 12 million men. So if each of the victims of the Holocaust had managed to take out one soldier, they would have demoralized that outfit before it had done a third of the damage that it actually did.
Even if they took out 1 out of 10 soldiers, it would have been pretty
if you take out 10% of an entire military force, that force is going to suffer desertion, demoralization. It's not. And if you take out 20% is generally considered acceptable casualties on a mission, but you don't send out your entire military on a mission and sustain 20% casualties and call yourself a winner unless your straits are really desperate.
So, Sarah, basically what Rich is saying is, do you want to disarm minorities so they can't fight back against Trump if Trump ever comes after them?
Well, that's not what our concern here in New Mexico is.
So you're not concerned with the rights of minorities, is what you're saying?
Well, we're concerned about all the gun violence in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Las Cruces.
But screw the rights of those people, right? You're not worried about it. If Trump wants to round up the blacks, you're totally fine with that because they won't be able to defend themselves with guns, right?
Well, the thing is, that's not my focus. But I started this conversation.
It's not your focus, but maybe it's a good idea to take a look at that because
that's what you're advocating for.
When you give a government, when you disarm the citizens, then they no longer have a say in what that government does. They no longer have a hard line that they can draw in the sand.
Thank you, Sarah, for the call tonight. We got more time for you. Hour number 3 is on the way. It's the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live. Coming up, are libertarians turning fascist? Mark's got that story from Medium.com. We'll get into it because I don't know if I agree with it, but then again, I haven't heard the claims, so we'll see what it says. Coming up here, this is Free Talk Live, and you can take control of the airwaves.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. The toll-free number for you is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. In the studio here tonight, it's Ian,
Rich Paul,
and Mark.
Don't forget, you can join us on our Discord server. Get on those Discord call-in lines. You'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us over at discord.lrn.fm. Once again, that's discord.lrn.fm. As we continue here, Mark, you had a story that you wanted to share from an author over at Medium.com on an opinion piece about libertarians turning fascist, which in the case of former co-host Christopher Cantwell, it definitely happened. Somebody who was purportedly educated as a libertarian at one time, well-spoken as a libertarian. Whether you agreed with his attitude or not was another question, but he was definitely a pretty principled libertarian, or so it seemed, and now he's basically a Nazi.
That, right. Does he use that terminology?
Well, he addressed that during the she-male versus Nazi debate that happened on Friday night that he ended up walking out of, and he said that he sort of begrudgingly started to accept it because people were calling him it anyway,
right? And
so he kind of just accepted that,
from
even
a
though
branding standpoint, he is the crying Nazi. Gotcha.
I don't know if he accepts that.
I don't think he was. I don't think that was the branding he was. I don't think that was the branding he was looking for, though.
I suspect not, but. I mean, when you say the crying Nazi,
he's the one.
It's likely that's where people get it. That's what people,
By the way, if you missed the video of him storming out of the studio because somebody called him a name he didn't like.
Okay, he didn't storm out of the studio. Now, I got to take exception with that. Edge stormed out of the studio. Cantwell, he maybe rained out of the studio. He sprinkled out of the studio, but he didn't storm out of the studio.
He wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy, but he wasn't thunder and lightning either.
Fair enough. It was still entertaining, and you can see the clip over at freekeen.com right now. So, Mark, let's jump into this story here.
Yeah, so the story, this is an article written on Medium.com, which I think is one of those sites that basically just goes for the clicks.
I think anyone anyone can write on Medium.com.
Yeah. But it's not
new. It's a good-looking site, though.
But it's new to me, and I found it interesting, so it's sort of worth looking at and looking at.
Yeah,
realizing,
the idea of a libertarian, leaving libertarianism is not a new idea at all. But.
Right. Not leaving libertarianism and then going towards this alt-right thing. This is relatively new. This is a year-old article, but still quite relevant. If you paid attention to politics on the internet as long as I have, you might have.
And who is this?
This is just some guy.
There's probably a name on it, though. I'm just saying.
His name is Elliot Gulliver Needham. He's a dashed. He's a hyphenated name.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe he self-identifies as a Marxist.
All right then.
And having read it earlier today, let's see. You might have noticed a worrying and confusing trend. Traditionally libertarian figures transitioning into alt-right supporters. I followed the classical liberal faction of the internet since 2014, the year I started becoming interested in politics. I was watching Christopher Cantwell before he became known as the crying Nazi, when his chant was taxation is theft, not Jews will not replace us. I remember Stefan Molyneux when he was debating whether we should have a government, not whether government should be used to promote eugenics. This fascinating transition from libertarian right to authoritarian right has been mirrored in just about every single alt-right figurehead. Think Milo Yiannopoulos, Richard Spencer, Alex Jones.
These people weren't libertarians.
Alex Jones was he supported Ron Paul. He was definitely in the libertarian area of the spectrum.
He did say libertarian right. Okay? So he has...
But none of those people, I mean, Richard Spencer, I've never heard of that person.
Richard Spencer has never been...
He's a racist straight up.
Yeah, he's not.
This guy says he was on the Ron Paul campaign. So that's a bit of a pedigree.
He claims Spencer was, or the guy writing the article?
Yeah, Spencer claims. He claims that Spencer was.
That's news to me.
Okay.
Huh.
I mean, I don't know all his campaign people, but...
Yeah. This guy baked Alaska.
Ask Google what they think about it.
Well, you can feel free to do that. I'm reading an article here. The letter used to identify as this baked Alaska guy used to identify as a carefree, easygoing libertarian who firmly opposed the war on drugs and championed the cause of Black Lives Matter. But now he's being banned from Twitter for promoting white supremacy and ranting about how Jews control the media. The creator of The Right Stuff, a neo-Nazi blog that hosts such unsavory podcasts as The Daily Shoah, openly acknowledges this, saying, "We were all libertarians back in the day. I mean, everybody knows this." Jeffrey Tucker wrote, "They're doing to libertarianism what they did to Pepe the Frog or Taylor Swift to co-opt it. They know that no normal American is going to rally around the Nazi flag, so they're taking ours." What exactly makes these people so vulnerable to conversion to the alt-right? So Jeffrey Tucker gets a mention here. The guy doesn't mention that Jeffrey Tucker is ready to call out anybody who's on the alt-right as a bad guy, but does a lot of name dropping in here. And certainly I think it's worth pointing out that there does seem to be an issue of libertarians turning alt-right. Would you acknowledge that?
That's not surprising when you think about it. And here's my reasoning. How many parties in 1993 were opposed to affirmative action?
Opposed to affirmative action? I don't know.
I can think of one, the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
How many parties were opposed to hate speech or hate speech and hate crime legislation? The Libertarian Party was opposed to those things. And those are the right policy prescriptions. They're not inherently Nazi, but you can see how the people who want to use the N-word are certainly going to be among the people that flock to the party that advocates for the freedom use the N-word.
Once the
even
Nazis
if we
get
find
control,
it offensive.
Though, they don't have anything to do with freedom of speech anymore.
No,
right?
Of course not.
Well,
they only like freedom of speech when it benefits
what
them.
We've seen is that the alt-right occurred, the alt-right came to prominence, and those who were seeking to piggyback on the libertarian movement were drawn out of the libertarian movement, and they're not identifying as libertarian anymore. Chris Cantwell is a Nazi. I don't know if Stefan Molyneux is still identifying as a libertarian.
No, I don't think so.
Clearly he's not one.
Yeah.
So what it's done is not to tarnish the libertarian movement. What this pipeline has done is it has lanced a festering boil within libertarianism, and the pus of Cantwell and Molyneux is flowing out now. Well, and I think it's a healthy movement to get those people out of libertarianism.
I don't know if you're going to agree with his next
hold
paragraph,
on.
though.
You asked if I could acknowledge this, and not only have I acknowledged it, but we've cataloged it on the air. Yeah. We were part of watching it happen as Cantwell became a racist. As he was a host of Free Talk Live, we found out that he had become racist. We fired him from the show in that particular case. We saw it happen with Molyneux. We also had him on the show in the past. Remember from the Porcupine Freedom Festival? He came on. He was very anarchist, very libertarian, very voluntarist. And then during the Trump campaign, he turned into a Trumper and was singing the U.S. national anthem as a Canadian on one of his videos. I mean, it just became this bizarre thing where he went into the so-called race realism, which is just a code word for racism. So Molyneux and Cantwell went in a similar direction. So not only have we acknowledged that, but we've discussed it in the past. We've also talked, however, about the libertarians who've moved to the left. And I think that that's what this person is completely ignoring, at least so far.
Well, he is one.
I understand that. But he's ignoring the fact that happens. Because it's easy to see Chris Cantwell. He's a national figure. It's easy to see Molyneux. He's relatively popular on the internet and had a pretty popular podcast and YouTube channel.
He was huge in his day.
Yeah, he probably still is. But his followers have shifted to the right. So you look at somebody like Amanda Bolden, who was a self-proclaimed anarchist who moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. She formed a voluntarist charity that helped feed people. Rich, you and I did deliveries for that charity 1 year or twice, 2 years or something like that. And so we were involved with that. We've had her on the show on a number of occasions in the past talking about that charity and what motivated it. And then she became a full-blown leftist. She joined the Democrat Party, and instead of working within it as a libertarian, she just fully adopted their belief systems, married a leftist.
She became a leftist by the injection method.
There's that, too. There's the argument that she just became whatever her boyfriends were over time. But it wasn't just her. It was also a guy named Will May, who was a blogger at freekeen.com, and there have been others that went to the left. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Dial in toll-free, bring up anything that you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. As we continue here, we will take your calls about what you want. Sharing a story from Medium by a self-proclaimed Marxist who's got opinions about the libertarians shifting to the right, some of them, like Christopher Cantwell, who used to be a self-proclaimed libertarian. Now he's basically a Nazi, and then others. But I'm saying that it's not just a right-wing problem. It's a problem of people leaving the ideas of liberty for various different reasons, because some have gone to the left, and very, very far to the left. And
now, did you catch whether or not Cantwell had adopted any of the Nazi anti-free market ideas? Because, National Socialists were socialists. They were not free marketers by any stretch.
He is tariffs is his thing. He tends to be afraid that some country could undercut the U.S. distributors of whatever, say steel, and therefore weaken the power of the nation and put them out of business, and then do whatever they want. Basically, what Walmart did to Kmart, which was Walmart dedicated a whole bunch of money to undercutting Kmart, and
it worked.
Kmart could not compete. Kmart, then owned by Sears, could not compete, and basically they shut it down, and the brand is dead.
Well, actually, Kmart's still around, but there's not very many of them compared to its heyday.
Isn't Sears dead now, too?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They were on the auction block a little while ago. I'm not sure what happened with that deal, because somebody, one of their board chairmen or something, wanted to buy it for pennies on the dollar, and they were originally saying no, but I think they might have said yes. I forget what happened there. They're sort of limping along, basically, just barely.
Sears was the Amazon.com of its day, of course. Yeah. So that was, you could buy heroin by mail order.
That was
from
good times.
Sears and Roebuck. They would send you a fully automatic gun.
Guns and heroin, all in the same box.
They would send you all sorts of elixirs of marijuana. They would send you whatever you wanted. So they were not only the Amazon.com of their day, they were also the
not even Amazon will sell you heroin and marijuana.
Well, they were also the Silk Road of their day, because all that stuff was legal.
So, Mark, let's get a little bit further here, and then we'll get to your calls and thoughts, because I fully disagree that this is only a right-wing problem.
The author goes on
period.
To understand why libertarians are so susceptible to white supremacist ideas, we have to look at the history of it. So he assumes a premises, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he says, okay, these libertarians have done this,
so
and
therefore
all libertarians do that, right?
False.
We have to look at the history of it, specifically within the United States. And that's a good place to look for libertarian history. The fact is that libertarianism has always been a refuge of racism and implicit support for authoritarianism, despite direct contradiction to their supposed ideology. Throughout history, the men who are considered the cornerstones of the right libertarian philosophy supported brutal dictators. Look at Mises' support of Mussolini, or Hayek and Friedman's backing of Pinochet. It is clear that these people have always been willing to put aside ideology for what they see as an ends that justifies the means.
Well, if that's
even
true,
in such morally abhorrent cases as supporting apartheid in South Africa or the Confederacy under the pretense of states' rights.
Well, if that's true, and I don't know because I don't read those authors, I have no idea what they've said, so I'll take his word for it.
Hayek, Mises, and Friedman are important people in the liberty movement.
Fine, just because they wrote some books and were influential, that's fine. But if they actually support dictators, then they're not libertarians. Just going to say that right now.
Yeah, and Friedman's relationship with Pinochet was not support, for example. Friedman hated Pinochet, but Friedman nonetheless spent time as an advisor to Pinochet, and what he told him is you need to open up your markets, you need to free your markets, you need to stop trying to control your markets. So Pinochet did that, the country got richer, and then the country overthrew Pinochet. So good for them in terms of getting rid of him. Now, I believe, and Friedman himself writes about this and how pleased he was that, once the markets were free, they did not support Pinochet.
Right. This trying to smear us with the Confederacy thing. I don't know. Supporting apartheid, I can't speak to that. It's got a link here. I didn't read that ahead of time. But as far as the Confederacy goes, look, if you're going to have an organization that you call a state, and that organization is going to sign on to a federation that we're going to call the United States of America, then one would presume that organization if it has the right to sign up, it has the right to
leave.
To leave. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything's got an exit clause.
You would hope.
I'm not saying
that
state has a legitimate right to exist, but I'm saying if you presume that it does, and you presume that it has the right to join a federation, then you must then presume that it has the right to leave that federation. And if it has bad reasons for leaving that federation, i.e. wanting to own a particular race of people, then it's a bad reason to want to leave, and owning people is bad. But my support for the notion that a state can leave the Union is not based on racism, and anybody who would smear me like that really does not understand my position.
Right. And frankly, if a state had wanted to secede from the Union, say a northern state had wanted to secede from the Union prior to the Civil War because it didn't want to be associated with slavery, then I would support them too.
Indeed. I do.
Absolutely. I'd support them wholeheartedly, which I can't do with the Confederacy because it was a confederacy of economic dunces. For one thing, they managed to castrate themselves economically through having slavery in the first place. It kept them in a feudal system instead of allowing them to truly implement a market economy, and that's why they were so poor that they lost to the North. They didn't have the industrial base.
Right. I mean, you want to know my opinion on the Confederacy? Watch Django Unchained. I think it's awesome.
It's a good movie.
It's a really good movie. But I do think that any state has the right to leave the Federation if it wants to leave for whatever reason. And the New England states did want to leave in like the 1820s. You can look it up, ladies and gentlemen, and I support their desire to have done so.
It's about time it happened again.
I support John Brown.
Which one is that?
That was the guy
Governor?
who went down south. He was from Kansas or Mississippi.
Yeah.
He went to Missouri, and he basically whacked a bunch of slave owners
Right, he caused
and set their slaves free and tried to create a slave uprising that eventually failed, and he was hanged. But
he was a friend of Lysander Spooner, as a matter of fact.
And he was, basically Thoreau wrote a defense of what he did and said basically, he had a right to do that. And I would agree, any slaver was initiating force. And so if his slaves rose up and killed him, or somebody else came down and whacked him, I got no problem with that. No humans involved.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Let's go on here. This lingering white supremacy in the libertarian movement carried on beyond the mid-20th century into the ideologies of Murray Rothbard and Lew Rockwell. Rothbard himself wrote that the proper strategy of libertarians and paleos is a strategy of white-ring populism. Essentially, that means appealing to the racism held within the right of American society, not dissimilar to what we see in Donald Trump.
There's a lot more to right-wing populism than racial ideology.
It's a big
I'd say
jump.
That's a very small piece of it.
We got more on the way here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. It is Free Talk Live. Live Sunday edition of the show. You can dial in and take control of the airwaves. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Once again, somebody on the left is trying to paint the libertarians as though they're on the right.
Right. It's a heck of a lot. Well, not just paint them as they're on the right. They're racists. This is a lot easier than having the argument that libertarians have bad ideas, because the left is really bad at having the argument that the libertarian ideas are bad.
Right, because ours are the ones that are based in peace and non-aggression and,
and facts surrounding, things that work and a whole bunch of other stuff.
You're right.
Socialism really doesn't work.
Better to just badmouth and paint us as though we're racist, which is, again, if this movement felt racist to me, I would not have gotten involved with it. If I'd gone to the Libertarian Party meetings in Sarasota, where I first, got involved in these sorts of things, and I felt like I was around a bunch of racists, I'd have been like, see ya.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the reasons that when I left the Democratic Party, I went to the Libertarian Party and not the Republican Party, is because Republicans struck me as theocratic, and they struck me as having a lot of racists.
I've always been aware as a libertarian that within the idea of libertarianism, which is a simple concept, it's the non-aggression principle, which says, you shouldn't initiate force to achieve your political or social goals. That's kind of what the Libertarian Party's signing statement is. That within that statement, a racist could exist, right? Like there could be racists within the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian principle doesn't exclude that, but it never seemed to be more than a very small minority, basically invisible to me as far as my experience has been. I mean, with the exception of Cantwell, which is an unusual case in my book.
Yeah, and I can think of a few others who are still libertarian, but I mean, you can say that we should have people placed on a level playing field, which is what ANCAPs
anarcho-capitalist.
Anarcho-capitalists believe in, and if you believe that some group of people is inferior to some other group of people in some way, then I guess they won't be as well represented in professions that require that thing. But who cares? It doesn't...
Well, I don't even like to think about the groups of people. Like, it's an artificial paradigm that is given to me that I have to think, well, how are men going to be handled in this situation? How are women going to be handled? How are blacks or whites or Hispanics or whatever? To me,
yeah. See, I don't even consider those questions because in all cases, for me, the answer for one is the answer for all.
Right. And a lot of times to our own detriment. We don't think about race or gender in the libertarian movement, in many cases to our detriment, because our enemies think about it all of the time.
Well,
constantly.
The other thing is there are important racial points to be made from a libertarian point of view. It's like, and I've got a good friend who's a Rasta, and he's kind of black nationalist in his outlook. So one of the arguments that I've used with him regarding socialized medicine was, what kind of treatment do you think black people are going to get if the government is biased against black people and the government is deciding who gets medical care and who doesn't get medical care?
Well, the government runs schools right now.
And the other thing that I said to him, and he's pretty much a libertarian now. He was libertarian leaning before, and I think he's pretty much solidified now that he's encountered one, is, well, what kind of education do you get from the state? And he actually and if you
anybody who knows anything about urban schools knows how bad the government schools are to
and that's
blacks.
how medical treatment of blacks
and
is
if you send your children to Caesar to be educated, don't be surprised when they return as Romans.
Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. Rob is in Virginia listening online. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I've got to object vehemently to the last sentence of that Marxist article you read just before the break, and also to your co-host there saying who left the Democratic Party, the Republican Party's racist. As far as the Marxist guy that's just trying to paint people on the right as racist, as far as I know, the third-party Republicans, as soon as they got a guy in as president, the country war.
The what?
The liberals went to war to keep slavery. They killed nearly 1 million Americans, and it was the Republicans fighting against slavery. Jim Crow.
Well, I mean, the Republican Party, I think it's unfair for it to go back decades and decades and say, see, we're not racist. I mean, I will say this regarding the Republican Party. In most of my experience, when a black guy shows up at a Republican Party event, if he talks Republican talk, he's going to be welcomed. But I mean, the political
they even welcomed our tranny.
Yeah,
here in Keene, they welcomed Aria DiMezzo, who's transsexual.
Right, and so I think that
it may not be the same in the South, just to be clear, but they welcomed her here in Keene, New Hampshire.
I think that the political parties have changed dramatically since, say, 1950.
Oh, I think he actually dropped off the line. Bye, I guess. Let's see. Continuing here, we got Allie on the line in North Carolina, listening to WNIS in Virginia. Hello, Allie.
Hello, how are you?
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I have the answer to your Sears question about what happened to them.
Sure.
Several years ago, they had little outlet stores, or pretty much storefronts, and they just carried appliances.
Yeah, they have those.
And some Kenmore name products.
That's right.
Well, they put out an option for anybody local who had an interest in purchasing that particular store. Now, whether it was on a franchise level or full out owning the store, but keeping the Sears brand name on the building and carrying the product, I'm not exactly sure.
Huh.
But we do have one here, whether it's owned, separate, singularly by, a couple that lives here locally in North Carolina. I'm actually in North Carolina. I'm not exactly sure, but Lowe's has also picked up the Craftsman name, which is also Sears' name. Yes, and they're selling.
Who picked up the Craftsman?
Lowe's.
Lowe's. Oh, good.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, they were a great name in tools back when they had their guarantee.
Yeah, you could turn in an old hammer that broke, and you could get a new one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'd go through pawn shops looking for broken Craftsman tools that I could then buy and replace at Sears.
Allie,
I think the policy is still in effect.
Huh.
Good, because it was out of effect at the end when they were owned by Sears, but perhaps it's in effect again under Lowe's.
Thanks for the update on that, Allie. I appreciate the heads up, and I thank you for the call tonight. Let's continue here. Greg is in New York. You're on Free Talk Live, watching us on YouTube. Go ahead, Greg.
I was listening, and I was just thinking that all the parties, not just the libertarian people, have switched all the time. I mean, the very secessionists and Confederate flag-waving people today call themselves the party of Lincoln, that I find really funny, because Lincoln was actually fighting against the Confederacy.
Right.
So, and that's why they seceded, because he was elected. So calling themselves the party of Lincoln while at the same time saying that they support the very states that seceded for Lincoln, I feel like you could see the parties changed over time. And even in the last 8 years, I mean, I remember Romney versus Obama, the debates where Romney said, Russia is our main geopolitical foe. And then Obama said the 80s called for their foreign policy back. So for the next 4 years, the Republicans were trying to prove Russia is our enemy.
Right.
And the
Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that either of these parties is really consistent about anything.
No, they're not.
They're consistent on this. They're consistent on the belief that they must disagree with the other party, which is what the thing that has amazed me about folks like this, the author here, that basically says libertarians are bad because they're on the right. Well,
it's not true.
You could trade your enemy, the Republican Party, for a friend who disagrees with you 50, 60, 70% of the time, but agrees with you, 30 to 50% of the time, depending on the situation. But they don't. They want to make enemies of everybody.
Greg, stand by. I know you're calling about something else, so if you want, we can hang on to you. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Moments remain in this episode. We've got enough time. Maybe if you get on the line right now, we can get you on the air with us. 855-450-FREE is our toll-free number. You can also join our Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. It's Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything, even if you are in the remaining moments here, which we'll try to get you in if you get in now at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. Just head over to discord.lrn.fm, and you'll find a bunch of people hanging out in there talking about Jamaican jerk chicken right now in the chat room, which is making me very hungry because it's been a long time since I've had some good Jamaican jerk. Probably been 15 years. But regardless, you can talk about all kinds of different things over there. Oh, and our Twitch viewers, I want to say thanks to the folks watching us over there. We've actually had a solid 30 viewers or more throughout the show tonight, and that's a little bit more than what our typical shows on Twitch have brought us in the last year. We've been broadcasting on the Twitch platform for more than a year now. We've got over 700 followers there, which by no means on Twitch is a lot, but for us, it's nice to have. So thank you to everybody who's following us there. And
I'd like to ask you to leave the window open.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as your computer's on, leave the Twitch window open with Free Talk Live there. We're trying to get to this milestone where Twitch will give us the opportunity to become sort of what they call a Twitch partner.
Maybe. They might. So basically, I've done a little more research on this, Mark, and so in order to become a Twitch partner, you have to pass certain levels of, you have to have a certain number of hours of streaming. We do that. That's no problem.
Easily.
You have to have a certain number of days of streaming. We do that per month, right? We've done that for since the first month. But we haven't gotten to the 75 viewer average count yet. So like over a whole month to have at least 75 viewers generally on your stream pretty much at any given broadcast time. And right now we're almost to half of that. So thank you to everybody who's participating in this. What I discovered, though, is that it's not going to be as easy, as just leaving the stream open, because they probably have some sort of system to detect whether or not you're like moving your mouse or you're actually at your computer. So what you can do is still leave that stream window open, and at least that way, when you're on your computer, we'll be right there, and it'll be top of mind. It won't be something you'll have to think about, oh, I should go listen to Free Talk Live now, because we'll just be sitting right there on your computer. So I think by asking people to do that, we're still going to get more viewers. It's just going to be a bit of a slower process, because even if you leave it open and you go to work, you're probably not going to be counted as a viewer during that time frame. But regardless, by encouraging people to go and do this over at twitch.lrn.fm or twitch.freetalklive.com, by encouraging people to go and load that up on their browser in a tab and it's going to encourage more people to watch more often. I think that will help us get to that partner level quicker. But apparently, just if they want to arbitrarily label you as a partner, they can. So who knows? Once you get to that level, then they still have to make a decision. So they're going to look at things like, are people participating in the chat room? They're going to look at other factors. So it won't just
I wonder if Cantwell will come back to haunt you.
The fact that we've had him on?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That was what actually got Aria her Twitch partner status, was the fact that she had Cantwell on. It couldn't have been anything else. She was given Twitch partner status without having had the number of broadcast days per month, without having the number of hours of broadcast.
Maybe they just went through and gave it to all the trans girls, though.
Could be. I think what happened. I think what happened was
Silicon Valley politics being what they are. Most of these organizations are probably left wing. So
I think what happened was a left wing moderator at Twitch saw that broadcast because it was number 2 on the talk shows category, and it probably got reported by some people as well. So I'm guessing a moderator was watching that broadcast and was probably amused as hell by the fact that, this tranny was taking on Chris Cantwell, this Nazi. So it was she-male versus Nazi. And they just said, yeah, Twitch partner. Here you go. So anyway, we're working on it. Thank you for those of you who've supported us there. You can go to twitch.lrn.fm.
Does tranny mean transsexual now? Because back in the day, tranny meant transvestite.
I asked her about this.
It used to mean transmission.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I actually asked her about that specifically. Like, how are we marketing this? How do you refer to yourself, right? And she says she thinks of herself as a transsexual.
Right. Yeah,
So-
she is a transsexual, not a... And usually you would refer to transvestites usually as he.
Okay.
Although maybe not when they're in drag because you're playing the game
They're
with
in a
them.
role, right.
But if you just, they don't identify as female, and they don't, they just identify as men who like to wear women's clothing.
We do have a question here in the Twitch chat room, actually, from DRW602 saying you have to send in a formal application to become affiliate, or rather a partner on Twitch, and says further, I think she got affiliate, not partner. No, I saw it. She sent me a screenshot where it said Twitch partner. So very cool and good for her. She deserves it because she was the one who took the risk with her channel, because we all thought she was going to have her account deleted for even giving Cantwell the opportunity to speak. But I was really pleased when she actually was rewarded for that risk. So it's nice to see that happen. Anyway, let's continue with Greg in New York. You're back on Free Talk Live, watching us sadly on YouTube instead of Twitch. But we are there. It's lower resolution for those of you who need that. Go ahead, Dave.
We love you anyway.
Greg.
Yeah, so I called in and something, but may open a can of worms. But hey, I guess that makes interesting radio.
Sure.
So you've known me as a libertarian, but more left-leaning libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I could totally believe that some people are more leftist, but while still, being libertarian. I can also believe that some people could be racist, for example, while still being libertarian.
That's right.
That's not necessarily exclusive. But what I haven't found very recently is consequentialist libertarians.
Define that.
What I mean by that, so there's two kinds of libertarians. One is deontological, and that means they believe in principles. They believe in the NAP, the non-aggression principle.
Right.
And they operate
Make moral
just
arguments, too.
Exactly. Like praxeology and basically just figuring things out from first principles. And then there are people that say, well, actually, I'm a libertarian because it just leads to better outcomes. Whenever the government tries to do something, it usually backfires, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd rather the government stay out for that reason.
I'm kind of that. The practical type.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it to be difficult because one of the things that sort of falls apart is that when you start arguing facts with the left or the right or whomever it is that you're arguing with, at this point in history, the internet will provide you with alternative facts about pretty much anything, so it's difficult to argue facts. You believe one thing about, say, gun control or whatever, and then the gun grabbers believe another thing entirely about gun control, and these are sort of facts that conflict with each other, and that's tough to deal with.
Well, I'm sad that the last great consequentialist libertarian I know is Milton Friedman.
Milton Friedman, yeah.
And I think his student Thomas Sowell may be a utilitarian, I don't know. But, there's no one else. Like Robert Murphy, I know he's they're all basically principle-based. And I really don't know anyone who argues like Milton Friedman used to argue, which I really like.
Yeah.
Aren't you kind of a consequential libertarian, Mark?
Me, but I mean, I'm not on the level of Friedman.
You got a radio show.
Sake. Yes, but I am not Milton. I am not Uncle Milty.
Yeah, I consider myself mostly consequentialist. I mean, I've adopted the NAP as a good idea for a personal code, but I don't believe that the NAP is carved in stone anywhere.
The non-aggression.
So, so to make arguments based on the non-aggression principle, they're all kind of circular because they all depend on how you personally define the non-aggression principle. And
plus it breaks down. The non-aggression principle breaks down on some issues, and we've identified some of those here, like the person who's gone insane, for instance, your loved one who's clearly a danger to themselves and others, and they need to be stopped. From they haven't hurt anybody yet, but they're probably going to do something stupid and dangerous, so you need to stop them, right? We've had a situation like that where we had
I was just thinking of that.
A 4-year-old playing near the street.
That's another one. Get them out, or you're somebody who's walked in front of an oncoming bus without realizing it.
Yep.
Do you grab them and use aggression to get them out of the way? Heck yeah, you do if you care about the person, right?
Blind people.
Yeah. So it's a decent principle, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, there is no panacea.
Also,
go ahead.
And also, I see that there's this buildup of third-party externality. So I just want to define that for listeners. It's basically like when two parties voluntarily decide on a mutual thing. It's like, I'll pay you this. Sure, I'll give you that. Okay, great. But there's a third party, let's say, that you pollute or you dump garbage on their lawn, and now this third party is basically affected by your voluntary agreement. So how do you solve that? And that's why many even libertarians say that you do need at least a government to solve that problem of imposing costs that would otherwise you just screw the other guy,
I would definitely say there has to be a mediation system. I don't think that it has to be governmental, in that I don't think it has to claim, for example, a geographical monopoly.
There just has to be a way to incentivize people to show up to mediation through whatever means, and we don't have time to talk about it tonight. Greg, thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate the beginnings of what could be an interesting discussion, and thank you for that. If you didn't get on tonight, well, that's all right. We're back tomorrow. And you can join us every single night because we're here live 7 nights a week. You can join us between 7 and 10 Eastern Time on freetalklive.com. And, of course, don't forget the Twitch channel over at twitch.lrn.fm. Make sure you get signed up and open us up on one of your browser tabs there so that way we're there and easy to find. We're coming up tomorrow. See you then.
All right, it's another edition of the Edgington Post Show. Mark Edge here at the North American Bitcoin Conference, reporting for Free Talk Live. Got with me here on the air, Joey Leinbrunner. Do I have that right?
Joey Langenbrunner.
Langenbrunner.
So it's very German. It's like 13 letters, and it's a lot easier to pronounce than you think. So it's just Langenbrunner.
Langenbrunner. Got it.
Langenbrunner with a runner. Yeah.
And you are one of the reps for the Liberland.
For the Free Republic of Liberland. So I'm the Ohio representative.
Awesome.
So basically what I do is not only do I try to help out on anything related to, the U.S. when it comes to trying to, talk to congressmen or try to do any, kind of go that route. Or when, Vitt, our president, comes in.
Yes.
We'll meet him in D.C. and we'll walk around with him and kind of thing. But me as the Ohio representative, my main focus is trying to get the state of Ohio to recognize the Free Republic of Liberland, which is kind of a little difficult.
I imagine.
And the reason we're kind of doing that, instead of just trying to go for, hey, let's go to the U.S. State Department and say, hey, will you please recognize, please, you need some basis, you need some backing that. So what we're going to try to do is maybe get a state or two to pass a resolution.
Okay.
Or maybe even a city or a county or, or whatever.
Yep.
To bring up this legitimacy, say, hey, this state, this city, this senator, this, all recognize us. We meet all the criteria for us to be a nation. Will you recognize us?
Right.
So, and really coming up to the cards, having all of our cards in place and timing it really at that point is very critical to us. So, speaking of what we're going to be doing in Ohio is that we're just going to be reaching out to local reps and doing
senators,
that thing.
That sort of thing.
Which Ohio, you don't think that good chance, what's really going on in Ohio. But what's really cool is that Ohio is the first state in the union to accept taxes in the form of crypto.
Oh, that's
true.
true.
So you can pay your property tax, your state income tax, anything with crypto. And then we have a representative. His name is Warren Davidson. He wanted to fund Trump's wall with wall coin.
Okay.
So
wall coin. All right.
So all these kind of open up an angle for us.
Yeah.
And since I was kind of one of their first active state reps, I was like, honestly, it could be maybe a 2 to 3 process to see if we can get a resolution passed in the state of Ohio for Liberland. But maybe.
Now, Liberland got a bunch of news. I think it was maybe 2014 or something when they
2015.
announced.
Yeah, 2015.
2015.
April 13th on Thomas Jefferson's birthday.
Okay, cool. They announced the existence of Liberland, which is a 2 pieces of land right in the middle of, is it the Rhine River?
It's right next to the Danube River, so
Danube
in between
River, that's
Croatia
right.
and Serbia. And it's not often there is land that's just unclaimed.
Right. This is terra nullius is the term that they used.
Yeah. And the reason that is because after the fall of Yugoslavia, basically Serbia and Croatia had different ideas on where their borders were. Serbia was really mostly going off the Danube River, while Croatia was going after where the Danube River used to be ages ago.
Right.
And so where the Free Republic of Liberland was actually on a land where if either Serbia or Croatia would claim that land, they would lose claim to a larger portion of land.
Okay.
So, for over 25 years, neither country claimed this land.
I got it.
So Serbia was like, this is not our land.
Yep.
Croatia's like, this is not our land. So then whose land is it? And it's not privately owned by anybody.
Nope. There was a house on it. Or
there was a house.
Structure, I should call it.
Yeah. It was unfortunately demolished last year by the Croatian government.
Okay. The Croatian government has been invading Liberland with impunity for some time.
They've been holding it. Well, honestly, here's the thing. So Serbia is like, okay, we don't mind the building of Liberland. Cool. And they've been very friendly toward us. But really when it comes to that border end, especially with the fall of Yugoslavia and Kosovo and, all these countries trying to form in that area, the situation is just a very sensitive topic.
Oh, yeah.
So Serbia, they're very friendly toward us. We're not getting official representation from them yet because they don't want to upset Croatia, which is totally understandable.
Right.
But Croatia has police officers that are on Liberland territory defending Liberland for us just so that no one else would come and claim our land. So they're really doing us a favor. And part of the deal that we want to really give out to Croatia is hey, you got these police officers here. You get funding from the EU, and you're also, your taxpayers are paying these people, but they don't get paid that much, and they're defending this land. We should pay you. We want to give you money to, you guys are already there. Why don't we just, pay you guys and, and
continue to defend?
Yeah, we'll pay you guys. And plus with all this money that's going to be coming into Liberland, there's been a few studies out, whatever the Serbia's version of Mises is there, that said it would increase the GDP of Serbia and Croatia by maybe 0.5% to 1%.
Right.
That's huge. And especially in the Balkans, it's not really the richest area.
Right.
Croatia has great tourism and whatnot, but it's just, unfortunately, it's just a really poor area of Europe. It's the Balkans. If you think about the Balkans, you think of Greece, you think of their financial crisis, stuff like that.
If you made a really free place there and a bunch of people showed up and were excited about it and all that stuff, they got to spend their money somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're going to spend their money in Serbia and Croatia.
Right now, since Serbia is being basically so kind to us, we brought so much tourism. There's a lot of blockchain companies, all Liberland, companies coming up and spreading out in Serbia right now.
Right. Why not? You wouldn't go to Croatia.
So they're getting all this business. So a lot of these towns on the Danube River that haven't seen a foreigner in God knows how long have all these foreigners coming in and just renting out all their hotel rooms.
They love that. They really, really love that.
And in Croatia,
they have no idea what you guys are about.
Yeah.
They love it. Want some more borscht or whatever it is that they serve there? Yeah, they think it's great.
No, it's fantastic. And it's a great culture there. It's a beautiful land. We're going to be having our 4th year anniversary April 13th. So everyone is always is invited.
I'm very curious about this. Please send me more information.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely send you. I think last year we had the D10E conference, which was kind of like the main sponsors of it. So what we're going to do is, come hang out with us, and we'll be sailing down the Danube, and we'll be able to see Liberland from a distance.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have access now from Croatia's.
You got to do a midnight insertion to get on Liberland.
Yeah, midnight there. Like we got a few boats. You know, we got this boat called the Bitcoin Freedom Boat.
Okay.
It'll have a restaurant on it. Well, you could have some people there that can hang out and have a drink. So we'll be doing that thing and seeing Liberland off in the distance, and the Croatian police will be there, and it'll be a fun time.
So the trick here is to get organizations and political organizations and stuff to recognize you.
Yeah, I mean, we have to create some sort of, legitimacy. Yeah. That's what we got to do. You can't just start building.
So who are you looking for, besides, obviously, state governments?
So, yeah, we just had a meeting at the EU.
EU, okay.
Yeah. Which was very promising. Definitely our biggest supporter was the head of UK's Libertarian Party.
Okay.
He was definitely helping us out there. We actually had a lot of people that were far off in the left spectrum. Like the Greens, version in Europe. I don't know too much about EU politics and everything, which were very open to what we were doing, which was kind of surprising to us. And just we were greeted very, warmly, which was very interesting.
There's a big localization movement in the EU because there's been so much sort of top-down stuff from the European Union. They're trying to go empower their local organizations to help people.
Yeah, and that's true. But, I mean, this was an EU meeting, so I don't know how many people that we got from, that, but you can search up that meeting. I think it was like a 2-hour meeting on the Liberland official YouTube. Just type in EU. Very interesting, the type of questions.
Any libertarian parties of the United States, U.S. or state U.S. states?
Oh yeah, so I actually helped put up an effort to get the Libertarian Party of the U.S., so the LNC, to pass a resolution, recognizing us, and we made sure that got into international news, and here in the U.S.
So they did recognize us?
Yes, they did.
Okay, awesome.
Which was by far the best news.
I should say us because I'm very excited about Liberland, and I'm ready to immigrate. As soon as we got something going, I'm ready to go.
So I get that question a lot. How do I become a citizen of Liberland? And what you can do, especially right now, is that you can go to liberland.org and fill out an application. We're very busy, so it's a little bit challenging for us to get through the applications right now because we're still in the startup phase. Another way that you could basically automatically become a citizen is if you buy our cryptocurrency. Our cryptocurrency is called Merits. The blockchain has not released yet, but you essentially need 5,000 merits to stake to become a citizen.
Okay.
And it's basically at a ratio of 1 merit to $1 right now.
Okay.
And
that helps
release.
With going around and finding people to talk to get Liberland recognized, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we have expenses, so even me coming down here, costs money. So things like that. Another way that if you want to become a citizen or really get involved, contact us. You can contact me at ohio@liberland.org.
Yep.
And say, hey, I have this skill, I have these skills, I have these political connections, wink, wink. How can I help?
Okay.
And if you help us, then we will reward you in merits. And if you get 5,000 merits,
you're in there.
You're a citizen.
Awesome.
So to a certain degree. So we're going to have 2 stages of what a citizen is. So we're going to be launching our e-residency platform soon. So look out for that. But then you can talk to other Liberlandians on that. Easy way to do business and kind of start getting an idea of how basically this country is going to operate, because you can go down that rabbit hole of how we're going to function. Basically we came out with a rough draft of what our Constitution is and what we're doing right now. I'm not on this team, so I can't speak too much on this, but we're trying to put our Constitution on the blockchain.
Oh, interesting.
So that's really all I can say about it.
Everything on the blockchain. Yeah. Blockchain for everything.
What's the answer to this? The blockchain.
AI.
Yeah, or AI. Yeah, it's almost like
it's an AI monarchy.
Yeah, it's almost like the marijuana people. Oh man, if you just have this, just do some marijuana, you'll be fine. Oh, I got cancer. I'll do marijuana cure.
I got an amputation. Rub some weed on it.
Yeah. Rub some weed on it, and we'll put it on the blockchain. Yeah.
Joey Leinenberger, thank you so much.
No problem, Mark. It's been a pleasure. I'm a huge fan of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Love the hair, by the way.
Liberland.org.
All right, thanks, guys.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.